Arsenal 2, Manchester United 0 at the Emirates. Manchester United continue to wait to get a victory at the Emirates, continue to wait to get a victory against a top six side. I mean, I know technically we did beat Aston Villa, that we were away from home last season, but I mean, a traditional top six side, a top side in the Premier League. As far as thoughts on the game, what? It was a weird one. I think first half, I think Man United actually did really well in the first half. Stifled Arsenal to the point that it was quiet at the Emirates. And as the first half went on, Dalot nearly scores. And you're going, actually, for all of the talk about the team that Ruben Amorim selected and for all of the talk about, I don't know about that, actually, it looked like it was going okay. And something we pointed out before the game, we said set pieces. We're going to struggle with set pieces. There's a reason Arsenal had, what was it? Like 11, 12, 13 corners in this game. It is a cheat code. Someone will figure it out eventually. And I think the way to figure it out is I think you just go man for man and just go man mark instead of doing zonals, because as soon as it goes into zonals, they just confuse people and they score goals. I don't think our defending, to be fair, from the corners was particularly great, but they looked like they were going to score for a lot of their corners. Even in the first half of Thomas Partey, when he missed it from a couple of yards out, that felt like a sign of things to come. But I don't think it's one of those ones where Manchester United fans have to have a meltdown or anything like that. I mean, things, you could say, what did we learn? We learned things we kind of already know. Some of the players aren't necessarily good enough, but we have said, haven't we, with these kind of games, that what you want or what fans want is to come out of them and go, look, if you do get a negative result, there is something there to hold on to. And I do think that particularly with the first half, and elements of the second half, but particularly for the first half, I think you can hold on to certain parts of that performance, certainly from Ruben Amorim. Go, to tell you what, in 4 games in, to a first half to stifle Arsenal away at the Emirates, who are going to be competing for the title, and for them to be scoring largely based off set pieces against us, because that's their cheat code. You go, well, I know standards on the floor, 2024 Dan Gore, but people were expecting us to get a drubbing. You know what I mean? People were expecting us to get a drubbing at the Emirates, and it wasn't that. So, fair result. Arsenal deserved to win. They were the better team. But I do think there are positives to take from that. And in terms of about players, individuals, we knew what we kind of knew anyway. I think Ahmad, when he came on, actually looked really lively and quite dangerous. He had the beating of Zinchenko. Zinchenko got the booking. And it's a lot of work to do for Ruben Amorim. But I mentioned before kickoff that I think there might have been an earmarking that actually the more important game this week was maybe Forest at home, because that's the more winnable game. And stuff like this is gonna, happen this season under Ruben Amorim. And the game was too early for him in his tenure. And I still think, again, in the first half, I think we did well. And actually, outside of the set pieces, how many proper clear-cut chances did Arsenal create? Not many. And again, I think at this stage, I think Man United will take that. And I think actually it has given me a feeling of, maybe even more belief in Ruben Amorim. And I go, actually, 4 games in with some of that shit show, give them a couple of transfer windows and let's see what we can do. So I think there are definitely positives for that. But this is the full-time viewer. Members can call in and have their say. If you do wish to become a member, you can do so. Links in the video description. It's also pinned in the chat. If you are a member and you want to call in, you can go to the United View YouTube page. It's on the community tab. I think also when you get members posts, they pop up in your email or all that kind of stuff. So there's so many different ways you can get involved in this evening's show. What are people saying in the chat? Mr. Darkside says, unlucky, really. Jewel London says, definitely positives. Mike Dub says, I think we'll be okay to only see from corners. There is a plus from me. Yeah, I think that's the general sentiment. Of course, we can talk about individuals, and of course, we can talk about individual performances or anything like that. And, creating chances. I mean, we again, this is what we already know. I mean, I think we can focus on deficiencies of the players, and we'll talk about that, obviously. But at the same time, I think if you do take a step back and just go sort of bigger picture, you can say, actually, I think, Amorim will have learned a lot, and it's not as bad as maybe we thought it was going to be. I think it's really funny that, now there's a lot of discussion of, Rasmus Højlund's not the guy. Joshua Zirkzee, not the guy. Wasn't last game people were saying to apologize for certain players? Wasn't the game before saying about apologize for certain players? This is where I'm saying that after the good performances and after the bad performances with players, we have to make sure, we did the discussion this morning, didn't we, about keep the same energy. Remember that conversation too, about keeping the same energy. So I think there are positives to take, and we'll move on to the game against Forest the weekend. But let's get into the calls. Let's begin with Show. Show, what did you make of the defeat in North London this evening?
I thought first half we did all right to stifle them, without really creating anything from our end, except for that Dallo shot at the end of the first half. But second half just kind of didn't come out with the same energy and kind of just tailed off, really, especially once they got their first goal. I was always worried that if Arsenal scored first, we were never going to respond. We didn't look like we were going to create anything today, and I think we only had 6 touches in their box, which is a bit disappointing. But yeah, look, on the whole, I'm happy with the way Amorim set up. I was a bit, the lineup was a bit shocking at first when I saw it, but I was happy with the way that he approached the game, because I thought he was trying to kind of stay in the game and then put like the weapons on, if you know, in that way, and trying to maybe keep it 0-0 and then try and win the game. But the changes didn't quite work out today, unfortunately. Kind of just made us worse, actually. But I think Ahmad came on, actually did make an impact. Obviously, he got Zinchenko booked, and subsequently Arteta had to take him off and put Kivior left back. So that made a big difference. But I thought Rashford was awful when he came on. Unfortunately, Garnacho again was given kind of an opportunity to start. Just didn't cover himself in glory again. I know people are going to keep saying he's a young player, but you got to do something for the team. And I thought Garnacho was poor today. And him and Højlund. And you know what I think about the attack line. I think Ahmad aside, I think it needs complete overhaul anyway. But up until the final third, we were good. But I don't know if that's because Arsenal let us build up to the final third, because they trying to set traps up for us. But I thought we played out of their press quite well. But the attack just has no source to it. That's the issue.
Yeah, I mean, and if anything, we were kind of relying on a set piece of our own, weren't we? I mean, De Ligt gets the header. It's a brilliant save, to be fair, from David Raya. And if we get that, I think it goes to 1-1 at the time. And I do agree with what you're saying. It felt like maybe a setup from Amorim where he was looking to almost hold on as much as possible and kind of nick it, because that's the only thing we can kind of do, like you said, because we're so attackingly sort of limited. What do you think in terms of going forward then? Have you seen, as a fan, because one of the criticisms under Erik ten Hag certainly would be these kind of games we'd lose, and coming out of it, we'd go, there's not really a lot I can sort of latch on there. Have you seen stuff you can latch on to today from Amorim?
Oh, no, absolutely. Like, I'm not blaming Amorim today. I think he did the best with the tools that he had available to him. The approach to it surprised me a bit with keeping Ahmad and Rashford on the bench, but seeing how the game went, I thought fair enough. I could see what Amorim was trying to do today. Unfortunately, we just didn't have the players to match Arsenal. That's what it is. And I think had he had better attacking options today, maybe he could have been a bit more expansive. But off the ball especially, we were very compact in a big game for a long while. No, not really many gaps. I thought we limited Arsenal massively. In open play, I don't think they created a big chance from open play, to be honest, Arsenal.
No, I can't think so. I can think of a couple of times where maybe the ball's bouncing around the box and we kind of get people in front of it, but I can't think of like a big, some unbelievable save by Andre Onani's had to make there. You know what I mean? It was just set pieces. It was literally set pieces. And again, there's a reason why Arsenal had, how many corners was it in the end in that game? Like 12 or 13?
I think it was 12 or 13. Yeah. I mean, it's a play from Arsenal, but at the end of the day, look, a lot of people kind of complain about it. I think it's a part of the game, and if you can master set pieces, it's such a big weapon, and Arsenal are proving it week after week. Like, and the good thing about something like set pieces is that you can play average, which Arsenal did today. I thought they were very average, and yet win the game on set pieces, which is not something we can do. So. Yeah, look, it's something you got to defend against, and we didn't defend against them properly. That's the issue, and you could see Onana struggled from them every single time, and that's where Onana, I still have my kind of doubts on him, because he's not he's not a dominating keeper in the box. And I feel like the best teams have dominating keepers, and he's still not quite that for me. But on overall, yeah, this is kind of, I can't be too disappointed with the result, but I didn't see anything I was surprised by today. Where like I look at the attack and I just think, you know, come the summer, we are going to start that overhaul of that attack.
Yeah, no, I agreed. I think there's a reason we're being linked to people like Jokeres and the like. Big up, sure. Appreciate you calling in. We've already got over 1,000 people watching. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes. We're already at 130. Be sure to click the like button. Be sure to subscribe as well whilst you're at it. Lots of people getting involved in the chat too. As Simon says there, let's get to 500 as soon as possible. What else are people saying here? MA says, Ray also made a good save from Delit, as I mentioned earlier on. And I do think if it's, and again, I hate the hypotheticals. We are so hypothetical FC. But if we had got that goal, maybe it changes the game. But I think it's one of those ones where, again, I do think Arsenal deserved it, but I do think there are positives. Let's go to another call. Let's go to GJE. What did you make of the defeat this evening?
Yeah, to be frank, expected. I'm not surprised. I mean, our record at Emirates, I mean, I said it when I was last on here, is really not the best. So it wasn't a shock. I mean, from my viewpoint of the game, the first thing I was talk about is the team sheet. I was very surprised when I saw it, and I guess I do understand where Amorim was, what he wanted to do, and it did work in the first half. Like, it was clear that he wanted to make sure that defensively we're compact, we're winning the balls. But what it did is that it killed us when we're going forward. The attack was just not fluid enough. It didn't work. Unfortunately, today I think our front line didn't have a great game. I think Hoyland wasn't good today. Garnacho wasn't good today. Bruno wasn't good today, because there were lots of times where like players are making a run and all Bruno has to do is make that one good pass that we know Bruno for, and he just fluffed his lines, or he just made the wrong decision. So yeah, the first half was fine. We nullified Arsenal, but I kept having that feeling, because the way those corners, I mean, if anything, I am just so impressed. I know I shouldn't be bigging up Arsenal, but those corners were like penalties. The way they kept crossing, the way Rice kept crossing our ball in, Rice was bloody brilliant today. Like those deliveries, I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, going to the second half, I was like, we're going to concede from a corner. We're going to concede. And then it just happened. And yeah, from open play, I think defensively we did great. We nullified them, but how do you even defend those corners? I just don't understand how you defend that. That is bloody
Yeah.
brilliant. I hope with Amorim and under our system, we can find a way to utilize set pieces like that, because that's what I took from the game. I was like, because at the end of the day, set pieces are a key part of the game. So teams should utilize them more. And I was just impressed by the fact that Arsenal were able to utilize those set pieces to win the game. Because really and truly, without those corners, that game I think, would have ended 0-0. I
Yeah,
really
no,
do.
I agree. I mentioned it the other day on one of the morning shows that I think it's, sometimes people get edgy about again, Americanization of soccer, but at the same time, like in NFL, you got special teams, and you got, as we said, the rise of the set piece coach and all that. And
Yeah.
if you can master it and no one can defend it, like a dead ball situation can be really effective. And that's not even a new concept. I mean, I know people are saying, Arsenal, Stoke, or whatever, but they made it work for them. And like Show
if
said
Man
earlier
United could do
on,
that, I would not mind being Man United Stoke. If it wins us
yeah,
games, I would not care. I would not care.
exactly.
And I'm sure Arsenal fans, they do not care as far as they're
No,
concerned. Yeah. But it was just the attacking bit. I felt we just lacked that X factor, and I think we actually missed. I think Ahmed not starting the game and Rashford, which was really, because Rashford has a very good record at Emirates. So of course I'm talking with hindsight. There was lots of, even though I looked at the team sheet and I was like, I would have started Rashford and Ahmed. There's lots of hindsight into it. I just feel like maybe it was better to just maybe go. I don't know. There's a lot of lessons Amorim will definitely learn from this game, which is the main thing. It's a very good test. This is one of the best teams in the Prem. So I think for us, losing to Arsenal at Emirates, it's fine. I think all we have to do and focus on is basically beating the teams that we should be beating, that are below us. So our next game, I think, is Nottingham Forest at home. We
yeah.
should be going to that game, win it. We should be winning that. I think.
Yeah. Are you concerned about the sort of attacking options? I mean, people were talking about that tonight. I mean, it feels kind of strange to say, isn't it? Because we've just come off the back of scoring 7 goals in our last 2 games. But has it shown that in these big games, our lack of attacking options are going to let us down?
Yeah, I definitely think we need improvements. Like, it's definitely not perfect, but I don't think I'm not gonna overreact and say it's like the worst thing ever, because really and truly, we just played a fantastic, like Arsenal side that are very good defensively, and I feel, and that's what I'm trying to say. So I think like going to Nottingham Forest, I'll be worried if we're going to games like Nottingham Forest and we're not scoring goals and we're not delivering. And I know, yes, a lot of these players, I feel like there's a bit of inconsistency with them. Like they have moments where they perform and the moments where they don't. So hopefully, I'm hoping as we get into the summer, hopefully Amorim and Ineos and the board, and they can look into signing players that can maybe help that consistency and keep that level up a notch. So I am not too worried about it, but there is a bit of an amber situation on the attacking side of the team. That's what I would say. So I guess I'm saving my judgment for Forest. I'm curious to see how they bounce back from this, because that's the main thing that we want from this team, right? That we noticed under Eric was that the mentality, once they lose a game, they kind of just go on this like weird, it's like they just start sulking and they go on this
Yeah.
slump. So I am now curious to see what I think the real test is that next game. How do they bounce back from it? And I think if they can bounce back and put in a statement, then I'll know that we're kind of going in the right direction. That's what I would want to see as a United fan. But yeah, that's all. That's all we can do. We just need to bounce back, keep going, and we still have to play Arsenal again at Emirates in January, which I
Yeah.
am not excited about. But hopefully, we can get everything together so that we're more prepared for that game.
Fingers crossed. Big up GJE. Appreciate you calling in as always. We're still under 200 likes, guys. If you haven't already, click the like button. Let's see if we can get the likes up to 200 on our way to 500. What are people saying here in the chat at the moment? Lots of people talk about Rasmus Højlund actually in the chat. Some people saying how many chances were created, and then some saying he needs to be coached on his movement. This is always the thing that just kind of tickles me a little bit with this kind of stuff, because as I mentioned, like, I remember just 2 games ago, it was like, see, hold that. And then when we were back into hold that, just hold a different that. And now, you know what I mean? It's just, it's funny. Or apologize about Xerxes now comes on. Xerxes shit. And it's like, oh, a couple of days ago, he was getting Ballon d'Or, wasn't he? Now it's like, oh, funny how these things work out, isn't it? Let's go to another call. Let's go to Amador. Amador, what did you make of what you saw this evening?
Yeah, it was a decent performance, have to be honest. And I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said. I agree with what all the previous callers said. I just want to talk about some of the players though, especially with the substitutions. I mean, Rashford coming on, he just disappointed me ultimately, because I didn't see that energy level from him. You know, you're fresh with 30 minutes to go. Where was it? And I'm sure Ruben Amorim would have been coaching him about. They said, "What I want you to do when you come onto the pitch, show me that intensity," and that wasn't there. And for me, what really annoyed me is that second corner that he gave away when he was trying to. All he had to do was kick it out for a throw in. He conceded a corner, and then they scored from that. So I want to speak on Rashford a little bit, and also Bruno, because those are 2 players that I thought in the second half they should be the one leading the line and creating some sort of goal threat. Yes, I know Garnacho's been poor, and I agree with what some people saying that maybe he should be starting, but I'm just looking towards my senior players. And for me, I think the good thing about today's performance is, yes, I can see the structure, and yes, the first half was really good, but for us to compete for the top 4 or even challenge, there's certain players that I thought who could take us to level are not those people under the system. So I think Rashford days are genuinely now numbered. But I don't know what more he needs to do to motivate himself. The manager's given an opportunity to rest. He comes on and he needs to be sort of delivering a bit more. And when you compare him to, say, Ahmad, it's just a world apart, Owen. I don't know if I maybe I'm being overcritical on Rashford, but I don't know what you think.
No, I think I mentioned this before. It was kind of the same against Bodo Glimt on Thursday. And we've seen it a few times and I think, to be fair to Erik ten Hag, I think even he noticed this, is that sometimes when Rashford starts on the bench, it's like he's ineffectual coming off of it, like, because he's not involved in the game by that point. And he just sort of, when he comes on, he kind of just sort of walks about a bit, doesn't really get involved. And look, maybe tonight it's a bit hypercritical because let's face it, it felt like every sub that came on didn't really work for
Yeah,
us. And particularly after Arsenal got the first one, it kind of felt like you could feel the wind go out of us a bit. And we were like, oh, we're going to lose now. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I do think that it's funny, isn't it? Because that team news, when it came out, there was a lot of sort of eyebrows being raised about that team when it came out. But on reflection in the first half, it really worked. And it's not to say that it's perfect, because you look at like a Garnacho and go, end product. You know, you look at Højlund and still go, maybe a bit inconsistent, but there is energy there. And it felt like in the second half, there just wasn't that level of energy from maybe the substitutes. And maybe that's where it comes in for Rashford as well. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I agree with you. I mean, like the energy levels are not there, and you got to bear in mind, Owen, that Ruben Amorim this is fourth or fifth game. He's not had time to coach these players and play the system he wants to play. So we have to understand that these players are still learning the system. And to be fair, they sort of picked it up, and I could see an identity. I just felt reassured in a strange way that it was this is going to sound really bizarre what I'm about to say. That was a satisfying defeat, in the sense that it was a defeat, but we played to the ability that we could have given the circumstances. I feared if we had Erik ten Hag as manager, that could have been 4-5-0 easily, just because we would be more expansive. They would have beaten us on the transition, and the players would have had the bozo gene. So I'm positive in that regard, that I can see a style and system play. So credit to Ruben Amorim, but I think Shaw said it before, and I think you said it before as well, or many times, that going forward, we got giddy when we scored 4 against Everton, but when we play against the decent teams, like the top 6 teams, can our forwards cut it against those? And I don't think they can, to be honest with you, Owen.
Yeah, there was a couple of times in the first half, wasn't there, where Højlund's going up against like a world-class centre-back like Saliba, and it's very easy for Saliba, you know what I mean? He can just handle it, no problem. What looks like a difficult situation, and just they manage it. And that's the difficulty. And I don't even necessarily blame Højlund for that. That's when I just sort of say, actually, what you need there is you do need that striker that's like 24, 25, that's ready to go right now, more experienced, because Højlund's got to learn all that, and whilst he's learning that, he's playing in a massive game at the Emirates for Manchester United, and it's difficult. It's difficult for him, and I don't know what other options there are.
The analogy I use, I think I heard it somebody, I think KD may have said it. The analogy is that if you look at our team and break it down into defense and attack, our defense is like a year 11 boys team. They're really strong in high school, really composed, and Mazraoui shines, is doing fantastic, as well as De Ligt. Our attacks are equivalent to year 7. Yeah, they know they're trying to learn their trade. When they face against the year 11 boy defenders like Saliba, they just get outmuscled. So is it their fault that they're getting outmuscled? No, I think what the fault is that unfortunately recruitment. We've literally got the wrong we've got the wrong type of players to play the Amorim system on a forward basis. So I don't blame Højlund in that respect, that he can't outmuscle Saliba, because he's not that caliber. And same with Xerxes. He's not the caliber that we'd expect as a number 9 or even number 10. So I'm worried against the bigger teams when we face the top 16. How will we score goals?
Yeah, well, he did say that, didn't he? Storms coming, we will be found out. And to be fair, I didn't even think we got found out necessarily today. It was just better team. It was just set pieces, wasn't it? Kay with the super chat says, not sure why folks are on Højlund's case. It's not like Havertz held the ball or played better. I think, you know what it is, yeah. First of all, I don't think, and big up for 90 months of support, Kate. I don't think it's, I mentioned this morning. I think you have to be careful when we do the whataboutism. So when we go, Højlund, this is still not the complete player. And then the initial response is, well, what about Havertz? He goes, well, we're not talking about Havertz. I think this has been my point in general. I remember last Thursday when he scored the goals, and it was like, I remember seeing some of the comments being like, ONC, you said you weren't sold on Højlund and he's just got goals tonight. And you go, against Bodo Glimt in the Europa League. And it's not to put that down, because it's not even a slight against him. It's more just saying, like, it's not there yet. And we have two options. We either sort of continue to play him like that and just kind of accept that there's going to be ups and downs, or you get support in for him. You get support in for him, you help him, and you get more options, and the team gets more results, and he can develop without that amount of pressure on him. And I kind of do echo what Amanor was sort of saying too, is then you also then look to your senior players, don't you, and say, right, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, senior players in the midfield, Casemiro, those kind of players go, right, what are you delivering? Because it can't all be on these sort of younger players. And I mentioned about Bruno Fernandes, and I'll ask the next caller about it. I don't like him playing in the 8 for the reason that we saw this evening, which is on the ball in those areas. You just can't give the ball away. And he will. And he can pick passes out, obviously, but at the same time, it feels like a liability waiting to happen. And once again, you're looking then towards the summer and looking at these different priority positions, and you're going, need a left wing back, which, by the way, shout out to Raul Malacia. I thought he had a really good first half. And I think he does actually deserve quite a lot of credit in the first half. For all the concern that we had, he was solid, and he didn't actually look out of place, and he did look like he was getting rinsed. At one point, he actually did a really good tackle, and United got a free kick after that. So shout out to him. First Premier League start since May 2023, and he actually did really well. So huge credit to him. Now it's just a case of building up minutes and fitness for him. And if we can, and he can stay fit, I thought he actually stood out this evening. So huge credit to Raul Malacia. But you would still probably say, actually, still need the left wing back. You're then looking at midfield. You probably do need that 8, whoever that is. We're still not sure who's the specialized 10s and a striker. There's a lot of work to do there in terms of recruitment, and there's a lot of people will still need to shift out the team too. Let's go to another call. Let's go to Chalaboy Comics. Good evening, my friend.
Evening.
What did you think?
Owen.
What did you think of what you saw?
Yeah, largely disappointed, because I'm more so disappointed in myself for having enough hope.
For believing.
For believing. It's like, what was I thinking, And it's tough because it was a very ugly game in general, because from both sides, no one really played expensive or, intricate football. And that was credit to our out of possession team shape. However, I was sort of disappointed with the lineup. I can't lie. We've all been talking about Ahmed and how he's just clearly our best attacker, and I understand it was probably for rotation and rest and that and all that. However, Ahmed's not played too much, this season. So if anything, he should be fresh enough to go. And I just feel like in the big games, you have to play your best players. You have to play your match winners, And I felt that was a misstep by Amorim. Now I understand he's still learning, so I'm not going to hold it against him. But I think he could have done better there. And I think, he brought Ahmed on halftime, but I think the change that needed to be made was Garnacho needed to leave the field at halftime, I felt, because it just felt like he was the biggest liability, him and maybe to an extent Bruno, but out of in possession, because he wasn't trapping the ball well. He was losing it. And I think the first corner came from, if I'm not mistaken, him trying to control the ball, knocking it forward. Arsenal get it. It goes to a corner and then they score. So I just felt like someone who generally makes a lot of changes really well and really quickly. I felt that Amorim took a little bit too much time on the Garnacho situation. And I think also Aminor said it right when it comes to Rashford's performance. Last season, I was highly critical of Rashford because I just didn't believe he wanted it, bad enough, and he was just not showing the requisite effort for a United player. This season, I have been defending Rashford because I felt that he's taken that step up in intensity. However, this game was back to his old habits, and it was quite awful to watch. And I think there was a point in time where Højlund had the ball, I believe, and Rashford was making a run. Then they lost the ball, but the ball was still in Rashford's zone. But Rashford overran the ball in order to sort of cheat and not have to go back. And Højlund refused to cover for him. Højlund just pointed at him and said, "Yo, dude, get the ball." And then Rashford jogged a little bit. So I felt that attitude was really bad. But the main thing is that I think this is going to be a learning experience for Ruben Amorim because he's going to know who he can trust and who to play in the big games. And I think it'll be interesting to see how he plays the Forest game because, in lieu of the City game, coming up. So it's going to be interesting how that works. But all in all, I was generally disappointed. I want to give credit to Arsenal for their set pieces, as everyone said. It's funny because I think it was around, I want to say 2021, 2022, when Union Berlin was going up. They were doing a lot of work with set pieces. And I have this group chat with some friends who think my football takes are a little bit wild sometimes. And one of the things I kept talking about was set piece optimization theory, in the sense that I think top teams or struggling teams or teams with new managers, interim managers, should employ this tactic in order to, quote unquote, hack the game state, because football is played very differently at 1-0, at 0-0, at 2-0 down, depending on the time. And I feel that is such a cheat code. And you said it exactly right, because what got me on this train of thought was the NFL. They've specialized their plays to such a T. And I think De Zerbi was doing that a little bit with their offensive set plays in a way. Pep brought the set plays when it came to build up, set patterns. And so I just think this is the next frontier of football. And as sad as it's going to become, that everything's going to become so staccato, I think we should employ that. I think we should employ that and find a way to buy United managers time. Because Amorim said in his press conference, if he was Arteta, he probably wouldn't be in a job. That's pretty much what he said. He said, if we can't win. So I think that's a way to give Man United managers some time to implement their philosophy and pick up results, is to emphasize the set piece aspect. So I just think it's interesting where football's going. And it was probably the most interest I got from the game, was thinking about the future of football, because honestly, the game itself was drab.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like I said, that was the biggest sort of parallel that I took from it. And I remember it was Arsenal watching them at the weekend against West Ham, and it was the same thing of, every single player has a particular path that they have to follow. And obviously Rice, whatever, follows the ball in. I looked, I went, that's just an NFL play. That is literally an NFL play of just going, right, there's your offensive lineman or your wide receiver. He runs in like that. He goes out like that.
Go route. This is a slot route.
That's literally it. And I thought we over here in the UK were like, this is amazing. I'm like, it's really not. It's really basic. But I agree with you. I think that's where football is going. How do you feel going into the game against Forest at the weekend then? Do you think we'll bounce back? Is it just one of those ones where this game was just a bit too soon for us, but there are still positives to take from the game?
So weirdly enough, I don't believe this game necessarily was too soon for us, because Arsenal didn't amaze. I think we let ourselves down. I think someone mentioned when Bruno had some clear passes to play and we entered dangerous situations and he missed those passes. And at a player of his level, he should be able to just execute much better. With regards to Forest, can we bounce back? 100% we can, but they're also going to be looking to bounce back after the City game, right? And Forest in general, when we've played them, all the games have, for whatever reason, been extremely tight, So, if this was me a week ago, I'll be like, yeah, we're going to beat Forest. After I've sort of been disappointed in myself for believing, it could be a draw. It could be a 1-1 draw, and it could be ugly. Do we have the players to win? 100%. And it just comes down to team selection from Amorim. You have to play Ahmed. I don't care who else is in the team. Ahmed has to play. Mazraoui has to play. And we have to figure out our sentiment balance. That's the one area that I'm not sure where we should go, because we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations with Man United, because traditionally we're a high-flying winger team. So we carry 4 to 5 wingers in a team. We're reducing our winger slots to virtually one. It's one of the wingbacks, right? And which means that the 2-10 positions will have maybe a makeshift winger in there, but which is why, like, Bruno's position seems to be like a 10, but we have to play him in midfield in order to, to sort of, facilitate implementing other people in the team that may not be in the team. So it's such a weird squad building situation. There'll be some uncomfortable conversations about Rashford, whether he has a future here, how we go about with the winger, because the center mid's balance just doesn't seem right at the moment. Ugarte is nailed on to start, but I don't know who his complementing partner is, right? And that's what's making this whole fit awkward. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just here to enjoy the ride now. No more expectations. Just let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens indeed. Big up Chalaboy Comics, as always, coming through. Long-time member, long-time caller to this show as well. We're over 800 people watching. We're 20 likes away from 300. Let's see if we can get to 400, 500, maybe something like that. And be sure to subscribe as well whilst you're at it. A reminder, fan views will be coming outside of the Emirates from Flex. People, obviously, Haley, Marcel, KG will be bringing you fan views from inside UVHQ as well. So be sure to check that out before we wrap up the show. Let's go to another call. Let's go to Eminem. What did you make of what you saw this evening? Are there positives to take?
There are certainly some positives. I'll say that in the first half, we kept a good shape. We were compact. However, we couldn't really build up and get to the final third. But there are also like things that we need to work on, and that we saw that in the second half. I think I'll just give a shout out to Maguire. I thought he did that actually pretty well, especially in the first half, playing centre back role. I thought he was passing it along and he was doing those switches really well. However, I think part of what fell through in the second half was obviously we conceded that goal. Yoro came in. Yoro did really well. And Delit went to centre back. And I think Delit held back a bit. He had a good performance overall, in my opinion, but he did held back a bit instead of like, when the ball's coming towards like Havertz, it's just pushing in to win the ball. He didn't do that much as Maguire was doing it. And then obviously the subs we changed the way we play. I think Garnacho and Mount were playing more compact, and eventually when Xerxes and Rashford came in, they were trying to be more expansive, and that just led to our structure for the entire team was just, I think there was a lot of confusion going on.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, in terms of individuals, Chalaboy Comments just kind of spoke about it previously. What do you think about Bruno in the middle? Does that work for you, or are we trying to kind of fit him in without playing him in the 10, do you think?
I think it worked for a certain amount of time. I think what he does best is he could find that final third pass. He could find that that long pass to get a attacker in. We didn't see that much when he's playing deep. We see him trying to control the tempo more, and I don't think that's his best attribute at the moment. I think when he plays it inside 10, he can be a little unpredictable, and that works. However, to keep him disciplined and be unpredictable, that's the challenge that Amorim has. What I didn't like is that in the last 5 minutes of the game, if you saw Bruno pressing Raya, and Bruno was meant to be in the center of the park next to Ogata. He just went and pressed Raya, so that was him like losing discipline. And then you saw Rashford was just walking, and he was sort of stuck in the middle, and he was confused on what to do. And then he just started walking because he was like, the game's gonna be over. And that just that the pressing structure, there was basically no pressing structure there. So for him to be disciplined is going to be a challenge. I don't think he'll work entirely in the middle, in my opinion. I think we need someone better to control the tempo for us. I don't know if Kobe can do it. I think Kobe's really talented. But I don't know if he can be that guy to completely control the tempo as well as let Ogate do the defensive work and then work with the inside turns. But my hope is because I think he has played a number 10 well in the academy, so I hope he can do it. But if Bruno is to be this person, he has to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, the super chat here from Jay says Garnacho cannot play in between the lines. He loses the ball every time his back is turned. And Rashford giving the ball like that, away like that, is unforgivable for 2-0. What did you make of some of the criticism of Garnacho and Rashford? It feels like they've got quite a bit over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, for Garnacho is right, and also Rashford. I think with Garnacho is lack of quality at the moment. I think he's got a really good shot. He can give a good pass. However, his decision making is absolutely awful. I think with 30 seconds or 40 seconds in the game, he just put the ball out for a throw in, while trying to sort the ball within his feet. I think hopefully with development that will get better. With Rashford, I think we are seeing him play play better in the attacking spaces. Obviously, he's got 3 goals in 4 games. However, his off the ball work, his attitude needs to change. And obviously, you've called me a Rashford defender whenever I put a super chat. I do defend Rashford because I was there for his debut, so I'm always a big fan of him. However, when he does play crap, like he did today, and especially off the ball, he does need to be called out. And if he doesn't fix up, he can't stay. He won't be staying. But I think Ruben will figure this out. I think when we get Rashford in a good frame of mind where he's full of confidence, like we saw in the Everton game, at the end of the game he was pressing and he was attacking those players. We need to make sure he stays in that mindset. Doesn't matter if he's starting a game or if he's coming off the bench. Under Eric Ten Hag in the last 18 months, whenever he's come off the bench, he's played like how he did today. I mean, not entirely, but mainly when his work rate. So we need to get him back where he came off the bench against in Eric Ten Hag's first season, or his first 2 seasons. He was actually like putting in effort. We need to get him back into that state. But yeah, he's got a limited time with Ruben, in my opinion. So in the next, until the end of the season, he's got until that time to fix up. If he doesn't, then yeah, some big decisions need to be made.
Big decisions indeed. Big up, Eminem. Appreciate you as always. Look at that. I tell you what, to be fair, like I said, he's been not defending Rashford, but he's also been, I think, quite fair there, sort of saying, look, if you come on and put in that level of effort, and that's sometimes the thing with Rashford, isn't it? It's effort. Sometimes if you're not, it's not always about playing well. Sometimes it's just about, putting effort in, isn't it? And sometimes that is something that Rashford can be criticised for. Just some Amorim quotes before we wrap things up, guys. He said after the game, quote, "You can see the structure, you can see the idea, you can see the bounce between the centre-backs and the midfield, but then you can see we need work in the final third. We need more ideas. You can see how hard it is." And to be fair, I think everyone that's come on this evening has pretty much said that, haven't they? Going, you can see an idea, you can see the structure, you can see how he wants the centre-backs to operate, you can see how he wants the wing-backs to operate, you can see what he wants his midfielders to do. But it's almost like once they get past that halfway line, once they get into that final third, there is a lack of idea, there is a lack of creativity, and there is a lack of ruthlessness there as well. And I think the positive thing is if the manager there, after 4 games, can see that and is calling that out, that is nothing but a positive, because it's a big issue, but it's one that he's aware of. He's trying to fix. And I'm sure if the hierarchy, which they probably will be aware, but if they're not aware, he's going to work with those guys like Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox. Say, look, this is what I need. This is how we got to fix it. So I think that's positive. But like he says, in the final third, we need to improve, more aggressive, more ideas. That part is difficult to improve without a lot of training. What else did he said? He said about the rotation. He said, quote, "It's not because I like to change all the time, but we have to have all the squad fit. For example, Harry Maguire has a time limit. Terrell Malacia and Mason Mount have time limits. Lenny Yoro really has a time limit. We have to manage winning games in a different methodology, different way of playing, more meters to press. And tomorrow we have to assess the guys who have a little bit of risk to some injury and will not play. We have everybody to work to play and improve the squad." So I think that goes a lot to say about players that, again, didn't start this evening as well. He also said the set pieces changed the game. We could have been more aggressive towards the Arsenal box. Until the set pieces, the game didn't have too many opportunities for both sides. Set pieces killed the game. And again, I totally agree. It's difficult to disagree with what he's saying in all of those quotes there, really, isn't it? And that actually, when you look at the game, because again, I went at halftime pretty happy when actually we've done okay here. Arsenal looked quite stifled, but as soon as they got that first goal, you just felt it. You felt just going, "Oh, that's just kind of done now." Actually, unless we get like a set piece, which we nearly did with the Delict one. But because we have such a lack of creative and attacking threat, it's like, well, then we are looking for set pieces and corners. I tell you what did piss me off as well is we did have a really well-worked set piece when Bruno gave it to Anthony. When he gave that sort of short pass to Anthony, and I looked at it and Anthony put it straight at David Raya, and I thought, anything but there. Put it across goal or smash it at David Raya. It was like side foot, not a good effort. I was like, that's such a waste. But again, and that's in those kind of games when you do have a little bit of something creative and it does come off of you, be as clinical as you can. You know what I mean? Clinical as you can and make the right decisions. That's kind of what Ruben Amorim is saying there. In that final third, there's nothing clinical. That decision making isn't there. That's not new to Ruben Amorim. That was happening under Eric Ten Hag, but it needs to get better, and he's aware of it, certainly. Tachi says, we played well at Arsenal. First half pushing them back, played 2 left backs and set pieces unbalanced us. Honestly, who stopped Arsenal set pieces? Nobody. And again, that's why I would say that I think there are big positives to take from the game. I mean, people were expecting us to win. And I know that when you do this, you go, so you're happy with a defeat, standards on the floor. It's just like, again, you have to remember where we are and where we are in the process. And I think that, you know, we stifled more than I thought we would. I think the first half worked. They beat us because of set pieces this evening, not necessarily open play. So I think there are positives to take from that. It feels shit that you have to be Manchester United and lose a game at the Emirates and then have to talk about positives afterwards. But you also have to live in reality about where we are. We don't have a divine right because we're Manchester United just to be like, we just got to dominate every single game and win every single game, because that's what Arsenal said for years, didn't they? Remember, you know, for the longest time, Arsenal would say the same thing, and they're the banter club. And Mikel Arteta has been given time and got the right players and the right tactics right and turned around. So that will take time, certainly. Eminem also says, I would start Rashford against Nottingham Forest. If he has a player like Mount next to him, he'd get more confidence in pressing. Again, it's up to him. Well, there you go, guys. That is a full-time view for you. Appreciate everyone that's called in. Appreciate everyone that's got involved in the chat. Appreciate everyone that's put the super chats in. Where do we end up with the likes? We ended up at just over 300 on the way out. Let's see if we can get to 400 likes. A reminder, fan views will be coming up outside the Emirates with Flex and others. Also, fan views from inside UVHQ from KG, Marcel, and Haley. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. morning view. We'll be back once more. And of course, if anything else happens in between then, we shall be all over it. In addition to that, another game. So not even that long away. We've got bloody Nottingham Forest. It's the evening kickoff on Saturday. What's that, 5:15 home game. It's a KO match for you, so KG will be actually in the right place at the right time for that one. I bloody hope so as well. No one hit me. He'll show up at UVHQ. Right, I'm here. Oh, bloody hell. So look forward to that on Saturday evening. Anyway, guys, have a good evening, have a good one, and I'll see you again tomorrow. I'm out of it.